Once upon a time, this land was ours. Once upon a time, it is fair to say, this land lived in harmony. Whereas now, there are panaderias, churrascarias, and bodegas. Whereas before that, there might have been cafes, bars, and saloons. Once upon a time, my time, there was nothing but sphinxes roaming the forests and seraphs flying in the skies. There were no buildings, but the palaces we built amongst the trees. Stone of radiant violet that let the leaves and light, but not the cold into our homes. Grand parlors for us to play at love. Whereas now there is poverty and police who persecute the grandchildren of tobacco pickers, enticed and promptly abandoned. Whereas before there might have been insurance and no small industry, the guns those settlers used to war amongst themselves, I heard, were made here. Whereas now and some time ago, people have dominated this place and these waters. Before it was only demons and holy spirits. It was only us pilgrims from here to heaven and the underworld. Time came eventually. At first, it opposed itself only as much as we began to count the years, then months, then days, then hours, then minutes. We knew we had not had it before. We knew we had not chosen it. And we knew also that it didn't yet stop us from our vocation. It became apparent next that it was time for us to go. We knew, from heaven and the underworld, that this world was not ours alone anymore. That ghosts, sphinxes, demons, and seraphs were no longer all that were there. And so we packed up our palaces, we erased our roads and paths, we bade farewell to the river, the fish, and the trees, and we left this place, which was no longer ours. And for a very long time we turned away. It was too much to watch the place where we had been whole, where we had known ourselves and those who surrounded us, where we understood our role. It was too much to watch ourselves replaced, and then for those, even worse, to be slaughtered and displaced. Try as we might, we did not, could not forget this place. Though I longed, I turned away. Eventually I heard a rumor that demons had come back to this place. I heard reports of a demon who resisted a volley of bullets, only growing in strength as he was struck, to charge a police officer. Though that wasn't here exactly, it was nearby. And though I knew it couldn't be, though I suspected it was nothing but savagery, I let myself hope. Perhaps it was time for us to come back to this place. And so I began to peek. I began to peek at the world. This world, to see who had been proclaimed a demon was nothing but a human child, gunned down for cigarillos. I saw that those who lived here, where you're looking now, were being pushed out again. And in my horror at the repetition of our own plight, and in the horror of what I began to see, I chose never again to look away. And so it is that I have come back into this world. And as I watched in horror, plotting a more full return, I began to leave my mark, to remind myself of places I like to observe, and also places I wish I could not forget, where the shadows of our own history were most undeniable.
I was born on this corner, or at least that is my first memory. I watched the endless repetition of the intersection. The sun would rise, giant yellow school buses would blare the sounds of children screaming. Cars would accompany those symphonies with the songs of warmer climates, the incessant pulse of rhythm rattling the rail on which I hang. Eventually, I came to understand that my employers had put me on this corner because it was supposedly at high risk for crime. I was tasked with watching and reporting. I was keeping them safe, I was told, though I was never told who they were. So, I watched. I reported. Never did I blink, never did I avert my gaze. My duty was to witness from my perch, an agent operating in service to a god, my employer. As the years go on, I've begun to lose faith in the nobleness of this duty. I've noticed that often my sight is exploited for other purposes. I would watch as my corner would flood with blue, a color signaling the arrival of human agents of my employer. They would come and harass those I had thought I was meant to protect. Try as I would, it was no use attempting to report them. The burden of sight becomes too heavy without the privilege of blinking. Sometimes I wish I could close my eyes, cut the flow of vision from the hands of my employer.
Good afternoon and welcome to HeCsUsAll YouTube channel, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about sigils and symbols. This is going to be about a specific sigil. Well, I call it a sigil anyway, and it's all over the state of Connecticut. Now, whether you want to accept it or not, master witches and masons and people who, play with the dark arts rule the world. They run everything from our school systems to our hospitals to the food we eat. Honestly, I think it's terrifying. And this is the symbol or sigil, I would say, and after this video I hope to convince you all of the same, that's all over Connecticut. I mean, this thing is everywhere, and it's usually found in really odd places on the highway, like, how did he get up there to even do that, So my husband decided to look into the tag, and he plugged triangle 3 lines in a circle into the Google search, and to my surprise, the tag popped up immediately. There's a bunch of posts on Reddit of people talking about it, and one in particular struck me and kind of convinced me that I'm headed in the right direction with this. Now, a sigil is a painted symbol considered to have magical power. This tag is spread so far and wide over the East Coast that I often wonder if this is even just one person, or is this a group of people, like a coven, maybe? This is where I found an interesting comment about the tag. It says, it's the Illuminator. I know that they spelled the wrong, and I'm guessing that was just a typo, but the Illuminator,
The Illuminator?
The tag being identified as Veo immediately gave me shivers when I saw it. Because I took 4 years of Spanish in high school, 4 years of Spanish in high school, and Veo literally translates to I see. I see. And someone saying it's the Illuminator? Now that's quite telling if you ask me. I wonder if this person is even, aware that, how deep their signature goes, or if they're carrying an entity maybe that's trying to communicate with others that are carrying entities.
I became aware after some time that I was not the only one watching this place. Cameras constructed in one long blink of an eternal eye purported to watch me back. I suppose they were even intended to ward off the demons who were leaving their traces across this place. As if they could take looking for me. As if looking back at me looking at them would somehow make me less perceptive, less ready to strike at the moment I knew I could take this place back for ourselves. They knew that you changed something by looking at it, but they, from their faraway place, did not know what that change could be. Closer than they may have been to that place in these times, they can never share or supersede or understand what it means to have seen the river grow its bends, and the trees to one by one fall, each only to be replaced by the growth of its very acorn, seed sprouting from fertile home soil. At first, I was curious about their cameras, and so I looked even closer, and I began to understand they were there to drive me away, and so I stayed and I multiplied. It would not have taken much empathy to know that the way to drive away a demon is not to simply look at it. And so I opened more eyes and I looked even harder. But I began to wonder, who was I watching? Who was watching me? At first, of course, I assumed it was them watching me. They who pushed away the first people to come here. They who built this city. They who left it to fester. If only they saw the explosion of life their abandonment begot. As the summer heat and winter salts shimmered and dulled our contact, as we remained in our tight and obsessive embrace, I wondered if anyone really was there. Surely, for everything that I've learned about people, they would have been surprised to see my blinks. Surely they would have been surprised to see me cry. Surely they would have been surprised to see me laugh. And yet, there was nothing. The camera never spoke to me. And the camera never sent anyone to investigate this demon, quietly vigilant on the pillars of the 84 underpass.
After some time on my corner, I started noticing symbols popping up around the neighborhood. From the vantage point of the stoplight on that modest hill, I could see many of the rooftops around me, you see. And it wasn't that I hadn't seen people spray pseudonym onto brick before. No, for years, in fact, I had been seeing Relax, PH, and Knox scribbling poetry all along Park. Strategically, they would divert their faces away from me. And on the days they forgot, I would shift my gaze to miss what surely my sight robbers would exploit to flood the blocks with blue. But no, this tag was different. It would simply appear. At dusk, a light post would be blank. Then upon sunrise, it would display a triangle, 3 lines, and a circle with a dot in it, sometimes with an additional 2 lines with a dot in between. Veil. They would appear everywhere, along highway bridges, in the airport, on the bus, on the roofs of Frog Hollow and the North End, and even downtown. And even though they didn't say much, I began to wonder about the emotion and intention in each tag. In color and in stroke, the tags that appeared each day would convey a unique emotion that I could only speculate on. The tag was tasked with witnessing what the residents of this small New England city missed in their daily bustle. Veo saw that baseball stadium sprout and grow in what was previously an undesirable part of town. They saw how each brick was laid by white suburban contractors, not the black and brown people that made up the inner city. They saw the highways that broke up neighborhoods, that created pathways so that mid-level insurance employees could drive from West Hartford and Wethersfield straight to downtown, narrowly and importantly missing the North End and Frog Hollow. A few years ago, Veo spoke.
Veo says, police are 50% honest, 100% corrupt.
In front of the station on Broad and New Britain. My employers did not like that one bit, but I chuckled. It took me some time, but eventually I came to understand who Veo was so often looking at. Me. Never before had I been so intensely witnessed. After endless days spent as a voyeur in this city, there was something that finally looked back at me, that saw me, that cared that I was there. And I'm not going to pretend. I know that that gaze was meant to be a menacing one, threatening to me, to what I represented. Veo was not just looking at me, no. They were looking at my overseers, those beings that stole my gaze and exploited it. But that gaze was so jolting, so arresting, so exhilarating that I could not help but feel moved by it. Finally, I was the one being surveilled.
Yeah, and the middle part was a real blog. This vlogger who typically goes on like transphobic tirades on her vlog is saying that this graffiti tag is actually a sigil that's bringing demons from the underworld. So I don't know if she knows what graffiti is, but someone better tell her, because that's a pretty scary thing to be worried about.